Good evening. I'm Marivelle Tarouk. It has been over a week since 700 Toronto residents were displaced from their homes. That's when a massive fire tore through their apartment building on Gosford Boulevard. The city, with help from the Red Cross, has been providing accommodations and other essentials, but that will soon end, leaving residents wondering what's next. As Kelda Yoon reports, for some, the stress is taking a big toll.
I feel lost.
It's been a long week for Anne-Marie Eden and her husband, Abu. The couple lived on the 8th floor where the 4-alarm fire originated. Like many others in the building, they haven't been allowed back into their apartment since, not even to retrieve their belongings.
It's been kind of very stressful. He had a heart attack.
I was discharged on Wednesday.
They've been staying at a hotel since, paid for by the Red Cross. This afternoon, they made their way to York University to meet with other displaced residents who have been provided shelter at a center on campus.
I mean, nobody was expecting this to happen.
Jones Kari has been staying at the shelter with his wife and son since last Sunday. They are among 34 people here.
No privacy, nothing, So that's how it
Kind
is.
of in limbo right now.
Yeah.
Exactly how long residents will be in limbo is unknown. 9 days after the fire, work inside the severely burned building is continuing. Heat and temporary electrical power have been restored to all the common areas. Water removal and cleanup, that is ongoing. Electricians will be on site tomorrow to complete testing of electrical panels in every unit. The property manager says the extent of the structural damage and contamination is still unknown, and they can't allow residents to move back in until they have a better idea. But time is ticking. Accommodations provided by the city will only last until Friday. After that, it's up to the property manager to figure out what to do for residents. The company, Ron K Management, says it is working on a plan based on the needs of each resident. Meanwhile, back at York University, Jones says residents are leaning on one another to make it through.
Everybody come together, we share ideas, and we talk to each other, and it's like building a new family or something like that, and having new friends.
The exact cause of the fire has not yet been determined. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Now an update on a story we brought you last night. Police have identified the 27-year-old man who was shot to death in Scarborough yesterday evening. It happened in the lobby of a high-rise on Danforth Road, just north of Eglinton. Police responded to reports of gunfire. When they arrived, they found Zachary Antrobus from Toronto with gunshot wounds. He later died on scene. Investigators have not released any suspect details. Antrobus is Toronto's 65th homicide victim of the year. A suspected impaired driver is in custody after a single vehicle crash in Vaughan that left a woman injured. It happened on Vellore Woods Boulevard, a residential street near Rutherford and Highway 400, just after 2:30 a.m. Police say an officer tried to stop the car before it crashed and rolled over onto its roof. They say 5 people were in the car when it flipped over. The male driver was arrested, and paramedics took the injured woman to hospital with minor injuries. A 43-year-old Newmarket man has been charged after an OPP officer was struck while responding to crashes near Stouffville today. Police say the officer was tending to several collisions along icy roads near Highway 404 and Bloomington Road when he was struck. The man is charged with failing to slow down and move over, careless driving, and several drug possession charges. Police are urging drivers to watch for stopped emergency and first responder vehicles with their lights flashing. The officer is now recovering at home. Well, some good news from the Toronto Fire Chief. The fire captain, who was critically injured in a blaze earlier this month, has been released from hospital. A picture shared by Chief Matthew Pegg shows Captain James Warren finally leaving a downtown hospital. Warren was rushed to the intensive care unit on November 2nd when he fell off a roof while battling a 3-alarm fire at an abandoned building in the city's downtown core. Another firefighter was also injured in the same incident, but only suffered minor injuries. The fire is being investigated as arson, and police are still looking for suspects. Let's take our first look at the weather tonight. Marta is here with that. So how is our start to the week looking, Marta?
I mean, there's a chance for a passing shower, but we're above seasonal for this time of year, so it's fairly warm. Come on. It's a little bit of positivity to start the week, I guess. Sunday overnight, 2 degrees, and then it warms up to 6 degrees, and that rain icon is there. Now, I don't want to alarm you. It's not going to rain all day. There is a chance for that passing shower as the system moves on by, and we're going to be in the warm sector, which is why we're warm. Toronto, 6 degrees with that rain icon there. It should be around 4 degrees for this time of year. London, 6 degrees as well, and in through the north, there is that snow. So we should be happy that it's not snowing here. Looking at that precipitation forecast, that blue that just passed on through and through the Golden Horseshoe area, late morning. That's where you can see that passing shower, but really not much of like a heavy rainfall or anything. Just looking at the GTA here, again, the rainfall icon throughout, but it looks worse than it is, I promise. In Toronto, 6 degrees, Oakville, 7 degrees, Guelph, 6 degrees, but I'll tell you a little bit later what's causing this rain on Wednesday throughout the GTA. Now, that's going to be more of a rain story. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later in the show.
Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks, Marta. After a 29-year absence, the Grey Cup is on its way back to Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers were taking on Hamilton in this year's championship, and they led from start to finish.
Here's Andrew Harris, big hole, Harris, goal line.
That happened twice in the first half as Andrew Harris scored a running and receiving touchdown, leading the Bombers to a 21-6 lead at the end of the first half. And as the second half wore on, the lead just got bigger. 33-12 was the final. The game MVP and top Canadian was Andrew Harris. Hometown, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Well, Canada's historic run at the Davis Cup came to an end today with a loss to Spain in the finals.
Into the net, and it is Spain, the world champions of tennis, taking the Davis Cup over Canada.
Rafael Nadal beat Richmond Hill's Denis Shapovalov to clinch the victory for Spain in the best 2-out-of-3 match format. Earlier, Canada's Félix Auger-Aliassime lost his singles match, meaning Shapovalov and Vasek Pospisil did not get a chance to play the last doubles round. It is Spain's 6th Davis Cup win and Canada's first ever appearance in the finals. And while the Canadian team didn't capture the title, many say it is still a huge victory for the sport. Shannon Martin explains.
An impossible dream that almost came true.
This is big league tennis from Shapovalov.
The world's best veteran Rafael Nadal of Spain kept on his toes by a superstar in the making. Canadian Denis Shapovalov scrapped to stay alive, but ultimately Nadal, a beast on the court, captured the title for Spain in front of a hometown crowd.
It's always tough getting so close and losing, but they put an amazing effort in.
All week, the Canadian team surprised and impressed.
This remarkable ride continues.
Capping off what's been an epic year for Canadian tennis. Who can forget this? Sports analysts say Canada is riding a wave of young powerhouse players rising all at once.
That's almost like a lottery win. And so hopefully what that will do is, in a hockey mad country where so many other sports take center stage, that tennis can really take up more space.
There you go, buddy. Turn those shoulders. Let me see big shoulder turn.
At this tennis school run by Shapovalov's mom, herself a championship player, kids can't seem to get enough.
You really see that in their eyes because, if Denis can do it, they think that they can do it as well.
Pictures, even words of encouragement from the player himself only push them harder.
Oh, it's crazy because, he was, just like me before.
The next generation of tennis greats. Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
Now just don't hit.
Still ahead, the Chinese government has denied the existence of re-education camps. But experts say as many as 1.8 million Uyghurs or are or have been in them over the last 3 years. That story and more coming up after the break. Now that public hearings have wrapped up in the impeachment inquiry against U.S. President Donald Trump, the Democrat in charge is talking about what comes next. As Katie Simpson tells us, Adam Schiff says there's already plenty of evidence to implicate the president.
In the weeks after Donald Trump put a hold on hundreds of millions of dollars in aid for Ukraine, the White House tried to justify the decision after the fact, according to the Washington Post, which says the effort was detailed in emails. It's another setback for the president as Democrats vow to press on with their impeachment investigation.
The evidence is already overwhelming.
The Democrat overseeing that investigation hit the Sunday political talk show circuit, saying the probe will move forward, even though key witnesses, including former National Security Advisor John Bolton, have not yet agreed to testify.
He will have to explain one day, if he maintains that position, why he wanted to wait to put it in a book instead of tell the American people what he knew when it really mattered to the country.
Schiff won't try to force Bolton to come forward because the court process to make that happen could slow down impeachment by weeks, if not months. As for Trump's allies, they welcome the chance to defend the president if this eventually goes to trial in the Senate.
I think defense will go on offense if there is a Senate trial, and we'll be able to call witnesses, we'll be able to challenge their witnesses, produce other evidence.
Everyone following the impeachment proceedings will be paying attention to a Washington court decision tomorrow. A judge will rule whether a former White House lawyer will be forced to testify before Congress on another Trump-related matter. If so, the Democrats could point to that ruling and urge John Bolton to cooperate. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
It could be the largest mass incarceration of an ethnic or religious minority since the Holocaust. For some time, reports out of China have described ethnic Uyghurs being rounded up into detention camps. As part of an international consortium of investigative journalists, the CBC has been investigating those reports. Adrian Arsenault has our story.
China doesn't want the world to see Xinjiang up close, to see the crackdown it calls an answer to terrorism. There have only been fleeting glimpses of swelling detention centers, but now there's real proof, secret blueprints of mass incarceration and indoctrination of Muslims.
How this happens is outlined in meticulous detail in these secret documents, including a record of a 7-day sweep in June of 2017 in which more than 15,000 people were picked up off the streets and sent to these so-called education centers. But make no mistake, the orders in here are clear. These are prisons. Those inside must spend at least a year in them.
One document is a series of decrees on how to maintain security. Prevent escape is the first and a repeated priority, especially during class, eating periods, toilet breaks, bath time, and medical treatment. That includes full video surveillance coverage of dormitories and classrooms free of blind spots, as well as a rollout of secret forces to prevent people from joining forces and causing trouble.
By the term religious extremism, the Chinese mean Islam.
Albanian-Canadian historian Olsi Azeshi sees in the documents echoes of what he saw for himself. Once doubtful of the detention of reportedly mostly Uyghurs, he recently asked for and got an official tour. His videos of smiling students, seemingly learning Mandarin, dancing, initially fit the government narrative.
The Chinese told us they have brought Islamic extremists. So we were expecting to find here suicide bombers, terrorists, killers. What have these students done to be here?
But the more he asked uncomfortable questions,
what is her mistake? Why is she here?
The more he realized this was all a show.
Their answers surprised us a lot. Somebody had prayed to God in public. Another one had put a hijab or a headscarf. They were not extremists. They were not terrorists. They were normal people who believed in their God.
You insist on this question?
Yeah. Official translators told him some of his questions were out of line. And when he noticed an odd wound on a woman's hand, an official interpreter became fed up.
You can give me $2 million to rescue her. Why? Really? Because you are so nice.
He realized they could not leave. They'd been forced to confess supposed crimes.
In these centers, what they are doing is exactly what we read in George Orwell's novel 1984. These are mass brainwashing centers.
And back on the streets of Xinjiang, the homes of the roughly 1 million detained are sometimes locked. Signs telling all the disappeared residents are being looked after. Now the world is realizing just what that means.
That report from the CBC's Adrian Arsenault. China's most recent response to this story came from its ambassador to Britain. He told the BBC the documents are a fabrication. A star of South Korea's K-pop music industry has been found dead in her home. Koo Hara had just launched a solo career after years of fame with one of the top bands in the country. Yelena Adzik has that story.
When it comes to the details surrounding the death of 28-year-old singer Koo Hara, there simply aren't many. Police say the South Korean actress was found early Sunday morning in her home in Seoul and that the cause of death is still under investigation. Now, the singer, who also made appearances as an actress, is probably best known as a former member of the K-pop group Kara. She joined that group in 2008, and the group was among the first on the scene to raise the profile of K-pop to international mainstream status. Now, Gu's first work as a solo artist, this was released in 2015, it peaked at number 4 in the Korean music charts. She also appeared on television and she released music by herself. Now, just earlier this year, the singer signed with a talent management agency in Japan. Gu also had a strong fan base. This was through social media. She had around 1.5 million people following her on Instagram. One of the last IG Live videos she participated in featured direct conversations with fans around the world where she read out their comments expressing adoration.
We love you too. Me too.
Many fans are saddened to hear that they won't be able to connect with her any longer. South Korean singer Gu Hara, dead at the age of 28. Yelena Adzik, CBC News, Toronto.
We're in a boxcar. They put us in boxcars. We were packed like sardines. There was written in French on the boxcars, room for 8 horses.
He is just one of 15 veterans making his way back to Italy for the first time since 1943. Coming up, we'll hear harrowing stories from the World War II Italian campaign. We'll be right back. He was one of 93,000 Canadians who fought in Italy in 1943 for an Allied operation in the Second World War dubbed the Italian Campaign. Then 22, Edmund Arsenault battled on the front lines for 15 months. And on Wednesday, the 97-year-old is going back to Italy for the first time 75 years since his service ended.
I felt it was like being in hell and coming back without a scratch. It was Christmas Eve. They put us in boxcars who were packed like sardines. There was written in French on the boxcars, room for 8 horses. From there we sailed to Italy, right to the front line. Well, just was deaf for a few days. The shell landed pretty close. There was 9 of us walking in a straight line. And the shell landed near the front one. It killed 3 and wounded 3. And 3 of us, it threw us in the ditch. We get up. I thought I was hit. My nose was bleeding. It was just from the blast, I guess, from the concussion. I was deaf for a few days. It came back, but never the same. He's a good friend of mine. We were in the same regiment. He was from PI as well. So we just happened to meet one morning, face to face. He says, "How's hunting this morning? Any squirrel?" He said that laughing. 10 minutes after he was dead. Step on the mine. Yeah.
And I know you mentioned when the war ended, it was kind of a strange feeling.
Yeah.
Why was that?
We were one end of the whole of the field, and the Germans were the other end. You could see their holes. When we got the news, we all got out, waving at each other. This one is the 3945 star, and the Italy Star of France and Germany, the Voluntary Medal, and the Victory Medal. Lots of times I never thought I would be coming back. It's hard to believe. You think of it once in a while. Just one of the lucky ones.
Marta's back for a look at our long range. So you said some precipitation early in the week, but not too much to worry about.
No, on Monday it's just a passing shower for us. I mean, unfortunately for Hamilton, it's a little bit stronger of a chance for that rain, and they didn't win the Grey Cup, so it's just a sad start to the week for them, unfortunately. Looking at Toronto, 6 degrees for Monday. By the afternoon, it's 6 degrees with that rain icon there again. Don't be too alarmed by that rain. Taking a wider look outside of the GTA, again, Hamilton, 7 degrees. In London, 6, and that rain icon through there. It could be worse, so it could be snow. That's for northwestern and northeastern Ontario to deal with. Now, in through this warm sector, that's where we could get that chance for that shower on Monday. And then Tuesday, pretty much clear skies. It's not until Wednesday where that is coming in. And now let's look at what that is. It's a midweek Colorado low, so forming over Colorado, coming in and swinging its way into Ontario, bringing that mixed precipitation for the southern part of Ontario, inclusive of the GTA. That's going to see more of that rain throughout. In through the central parts of Ontario, you'll see some of that mixing throughout, and then of course in northeastern and northwestern Ontario, that's going to be a snow story. So we're looking at Wednesday throughout, the icons really showing that rain, and it's more of an 80% chance versus that 40% chance like we see on Monday. And just a quick look at that 7-day forecast for Toronto. Now the temperatures are also going to drop off as that Colorado low passes by. So you can see from 8 degrees on Wednesday, when that Colorado low is really situated over Ontario, dropping down to 3 degrees, which is slightly below seasonal for this time of year, but looking like a nice weekend.
We'll hang on for that. Thanks a lot, Marta. Well, today sure was a beautiful day to get outside, and some CFL greats took advantage of it by playing some touch football at the brand new Cherry Beach Sports Fields in the East End.
Oh man, listen, when you talk about competition, every year we come out here and we win this thing, me and Damon Allen. But now I think this year they're going to try to separate us. But at the same time, we're going to have a good time. It's a friendly family atmosphere, and it's great fun with older guys trying to still live our youth life.
And it was all for a good cause. The athletes raised money for the Haddon Family Foundation, which runs school breakfast programs in the city. This year, the foundation raised $250,000. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. We're going to leave you with sights and sounds from today's Santa Claus Parade in the beaches. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great night, everyone.